Hi guys, my name's Jack. Today we'll be talking about why you should own a gun and gun control. So my argument is a lot harder than most, I would say, because stuff like this, like abortion and eugenics, usually have people on both sides and they're very vocal about their arguments, and there's a lot of preconceived notions when it comes into this. So I'd like for you to at least hear me out, and you might have preconceived notions, maybe all against guns, but please hear me out and then take that information and compare it against your own to come to your own conclusion. That's what I'd like. So let's talk a little bit about myself. So I've grown up hunting. I've went with my dad since I was 5, and I actually started hunting when I was 12. I've gone to the range, a couple times a year. I'm actually going this Sunday. And just every single time we went up north, we'd shoot random things, and it wouldn't be uncommon for me to see like an AK-47 or an AR-15 like brought out to be used kind of just to have some fun. And it's always like a great bonding time with my dad. That's kind of how we got close. And for then, if you ask any gun guy, they're gonna tell you that the most important piece is treating every gun like it's fully loaded. So safety number one is huge when it comes to dealing with guns. So whenever someone brings up, you don't need a gun, we have the police, I always hit them with, I always retort with this. Well, you don't need a fire extinguisher because we have the fire department, right? You don't need it. Well, that's kind of the same principle here. You shouldn't not have one thing because we have another, if that makes any sense. So also, there will always be sick individuals out there who mean to do us harm, but it doesn't always take guns to do it. And so that's why the gun control and banning all guns is not really the most important thing here. And we can't ban sick individuals from committing these heinous crimes. So America's had a rough couple of years, or even months to say. Las Vegas, Pulse nightclub, Texas last week. And after every single event, #GunControlNow spreads across Twitter. And it includes people yelling at the GOP, the NRA, and everyone who's pro-gun. And it seems to me that these people generally care more about the guns that actually commit crimes than the people that actually committed the crimes. It seems like to me that they don't even really realize the person behind the gun. They just realize, oh, that's the thing that was the tool used, we should get rid of it. Which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because guns by themselves don't kill each other, it's the person behind it. So, a common misconception is that fewer guns equal fewer crimes. That's great in theory, but it doesn't hold up when it comes to reality. Let's take Chicago, for example. Chicago is one of the highest murder rates in the country, but it also has one of the strictest gun laws in the entire country. In order to obtain just a firearm, you have to possess a license from the state of Illinois. To possess a handgun, you need to go through an extensive course and get your FOID card. Now, since they have all these extensive gun regulations, why do they still have the highest murder rate in the United States? It doesn't make sense to me. So, why should you own one? Let's just play with the idea that one of you might own a gun in the future. Maybe you buy a house, right? Maybe you'd like to defend that house. That's for me, that's probably the biggest reason why someone should own a firearm. To defend your house against villains or robbers that dare to threaten your family or your loved ones. In order to protect your home, that's huge for me. Guns are used 80 times more to save a life than take a life. So why would you take that risk of not being able to defend your home? For me, that's just kind of where I sit on that. And also, 200,000 times a year, women are protected by guns from sexual abuse. Also, murder has gone down 8.5% with the introduction of concealed carry. So with all these numbers, it's hard for me to justify taking away handguns and assault rifles when all of these statistics prove my point. Now, the numbers don't lie. We're at a 44-year low. It is the lowest crime in 44 years, and the privately owned guns haven't been higher. That isn't a coincidence. Now, it is also our right to own guns. It is in the Second Amendment. People can argue that. I know they can, but that's a different topic. That's a different speech. And the gun control ban will not stop psychos from obtaining firearms or producing these heinous crimes. It won't. It'll only keep the guns out of the citizens who are law-abiding and don't plan on shooting up a school. After every single mass shooting, the media sends a camera crew out to the local gun shop to show how easy it is to buy a gun. That's because the reporter probably hasn't done anything dangerous in their entire life. They're just a reporter. Why wouldn't they be able to buy a gun? Now, If you're buying from a registered dealer, you have to be able to pass an FBI background check. If you've had any misdemeanor of any kind, you aren't able to. If you've been charged with a controlled substance, you're not able to. If you've had a domestic violence abuse settled against yourself, you're not able to. Now, this is where you and I might find some stable ground. These laws don't cover private sales. Some states recommend or they require you to have a background check for private sales, but not all. And this is where you and I meet in the middle. We give and take a little bit. I think that even for private sales, you should pass an FBI background check, because if you're buying a firearm, I want to make sure you're actually sane. And that's where the Texas shooting just occurred. Air Force vet, right? He got charged with domestic abuse. He beat his 7-year-old child and his wife. The Air Force did not report that to the FBI database and the NCIS database. So that's why he was legally able to buy a firearm. If we can streamline that process, things like this will happen less and less. Now, let's talk about the tragic event that happened last week. 50 miles outside of San Antonio lies Sutherland Springs. Terrible tragedy. Now, man comes in, Air Force vet, kills 26 people. He kills an unborn child and a 17-year-old child. It's horrific. When he comes outside, he faces something he didn't expect. A law-abiding citizen with his own rifle takes this man down. For me, that screams the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. If that guy wasn't there and shot him, he could have killed maybe 26 more, and that would have been even worse. But since that guy was there and he had his own rifle, he was able to stop him. Now, these sick individuals target these places for a reason. People don't bring guns into church because they're there to worship whatever God they'd like. They don't bring them to nightclubs because they're there to have a good time and party, and they don't bring them to schools or movies. They don't. So they target these places because they know there won't be any guns there. So in my mind, if they know that there aren't going to be any guns there, why wouldn't you have guns in those places? Let's take Sandy Hook, for example. It was one gunman. If even like 3 of those teachers were trained and had handguns, I think the outcome would have been a little bit different, and we wouldn't be having this conversation today. Now, let's sum it up. Criminals do not care about the laws. If they're willing to kill 26 people, do you think they really care that a certain weapon is banned? I don't think they do. Now, other things that kill tons of people that humans use. Cars. In 2015, 10,265 deaths were caused by drunk driving. That's a lot. That's a lot. Now, one thing that I'd like to bring up again is that not all of these sick individuals use guns. It's just a tool. It's another tool that they use. Boston bombing, pressure cookers, the NYC attack that happened 3 weeks ago. He used a U-Haul truck. These are just tools. Banning guns will not stop these individuals from committing these crimes. They will just keep them out of the hands of the law-abiding citizens like all of us. And in order to come to a solid conclusion, or even to have these discussions, it must be open. It must be 2 ways. I must share my opinion and you must share yours. Thank you.